For generations, Australian agriculture has been central to Australia's prosperity. It's our vision that it remains this way into the future. We know that the smartest and most innovative farmers are the ones that are actively engaged in business planning, using professional services to complement their operations at the right time. We are here to share the stories of some of the farmers that have used these services, and we will uncover the different ways farmers are building better businesses.
Primary Industries Smart Farm Business webinar series. My name's Dale Kirby and I'm joining you from the Exchange in Narrabri, and I have the Local Land Services partner with me, Dale Kirby. We would like to pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Kamilaroi people, and pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to any Indigenous people joining us online today. And we'd like to encourage you to use the chat box to add the traditional land on which you join us from, if you'd like to. You can also use that chat box to add questions, and I'll be able to ask Dale those questions. They'll come through on my iPad and we can discuss those towards the end of the webinar. Today we're going to be discussing farm resilience, and Dale is the Ag Business Partner for Sustainable Agriculture and Plant Biosecurity at the Local Land Services. Dale, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You grew up in Gunnedah. You're grown up on a farm. You have taken on a role with the LLS, which takes you from Moree to Warriolda to Narrabri, where we are today, and back to your hometown of Gunnedah. You come to the LLS with a lot of experience. Tell us about life before the LLS that you joined in 2014.
Thanks, Julian. Like you said, I grew up around Gunnedah. So I grew up about 30 kilometres southeast of Gunnedah. We had a small mixed farming operation, so we had cattle, sheep, cropping. Great place.
Very similar to my upbringing.
It's a great way to grow up. It's agriculture has given me an amazing upbringing. I had the opportunity to go to university in Armidale, and I went and did rural science.
And which college were you at?
I was at Austin.
Yes.
So the cheapest college, so that we could afford extra alcohol. So,
amazing.
It was great. Rural science was a great opportunity for me to learn about agriculture. I spent 4 years there. Actually came back to the family farm after that, worked there, saw the farm develop over time, but was looking for new challenges and took a job with Queensland DPI. So I packed up and went from Gunnedah to Roma. So big change, and worked up there for quite a few years, decided that Gunnedah was still calling. So came back, brought a lot of experiences back with me, and joined Local Land Services when it started in 2014.
Incredible. You come with a lot of experience, particularly your own farming experience. Tell us about what the LLS does.
The LLS it's a great organisation because it's so customer focused, but we have a broad range of topics that we talk on. So we think about sustainable agriculture, plant biosecurity, natural resource management, biosecurity for plants and animals, invasive species. We deal quite a lot with Aboriginal cultural heritage and farm forestry. We also delve in, we're also there when there's an emergency. We also have an emergency management role there.
So that's a lot of topics that you cover. Which of those topics are you an expert in, and which do you hand off to other people?
So my background's in sustainable agriculture, so farming systems and soil nutrition. So that's my area, but across the organisation we've got so many people that we can connect with to bring in examples of that. I think you've met Pippa Jones, so Pippa works in the NRM team, and so Pippa and I share a lot of information when we're working with landholders.
What does NRM stand for?
We all talk in acronyms. There's always 3-letter acronyms in government, but it's natural resource management.
Okay. And is there an example of a customer you've helped in your career with the LLS that you remember particularly well?
It's really serendipitous to be here in Narrabri, because as I first started with Local Land Services, I got the opportunity to work with a producer just west of Narrabri, and he had some really fragile soils that he was struggling to manage. He wanted to see a productive livestock operation on that, but those soils wouldn't grow decent grass. So we actually worked with him, came up with a variety of solutions, and one of those actually was using some waste products, some cotton hulls, to increase the amount of organic matter in that soil. That turned a really tough, sandy soil into a really productive pasture.
So did you have to buy those cotton hulls, or are the cotton gins trying to get rid of that product?
So they were trying to get rid of that product at the time, but they were looking, where would we put this product? Yep. So we worked with that producer about how you could best utilise that product to actually benefit his piece of land.
Oh, wow. So you were able to bring in a product that was a waste for one business, put it on farm, and how does it look now? You know, that's sort of 7 years ago, 6, 7 or 8 years ago.
It's really nice to be able to drive past there, and I did a quick lap this morning, and you have a look at that, and on one side of the road is really scalded soils, and then you see there's a productive grass growing there at the moment. It's really satisfying to see, and good to see that that farmer can keep ticking along.
It's the way information is shared is one farmer does something and the neighbour next door looks over the fence and says, well, why is his or her grass growing better than mine, and what can I do to improve it? And so the LLS journey continues.
So we probably help people look over the fence.
Yeah.
Like everyone looks over their neighbour's fence, but we help people look over a few more fences.
And my speaking of looking over fences, I was talking to my cousin recently, and he's a farmer at Collie, and he said that during the drought, they didn't use any government services. So he was looking for solutions for feeding stock. What is the right mix of grain and nutrition to give the sheep during the drought? And I said, did you access government services for help? He said, no, we didn't do that. And I didn't use government services. I said, are you sure? He said, no. I said, did you use the LLS? And he said, no. And then he sort of sat back and said, you know, we did call the vet, but she's the vet. You know, we called the vet. So it seems like the LLS really integrate into the community, and farmers are working with LLS officers without feeling like they're working with the government. Who else do you work with?
Look, there's a heap of people that we work with. I think about that example, and yeah, if we cover over the logo, we're just another member of the community.
Well, you're an expert,
and we're there in the community, and yeah, we provide that advice. So the people that we get to work with, especially around Narrabri, you've got the University of Sydney, it's only just up the road. CSIRO and New South Wales DPI are just out at Milevale. So we get to work with a lot of great providers and a lot of other experts that we can talk with to try and bring great answers and great solutions to farmers.
So you're saying the CSIRO here in Narrabri, Sydney University and DPI have sort of research stations where they're testing, challenging, researching common issues farmers are facing. How many farmers do you think know about all of that activity that's going on at the CSIRO and Sydney Uni?
I think it's variable. I think farmers get quite focused on what they've got to do each day. They wake up and they go, all right, I know I've got to feed sheep, or I've got a paddock to spray. So there's a great opportunity for expanding their horizons. So while not everyone knows about it, there's an opportunity for lots more people to learn.
So it's like they get busy doing the doing, and then occasionally they might look over the farmer's neighbour's fence and say, there's an opportunity to do something better because I can see it with my own eyes. But they could be in some ways limited to access knowledge if they're not looking for it.
Yeah, well, you've got your own boundary fence to look over, but I think the advantage of local land services is that we can help people look all across the area, and whether that's just within Narrabri or it's up to Moree or it's even down to the south coast, to look at all these different farming systems, we can connect people with a lot of other farmers.
Why would someone initially pick up the phone and call the LLS, do you think?
I think it's probably when they strike a problem. When they strike a problem, if we get lots of calls to our vets, I've had an animal die, well, I need to call a vet, and they understand that calling an LLS vet is a good opportunity. So people run into a problem in their business, and I think we all face challenges in a business. So that's generally when we get a call.
And when you pick up the phone and call, is it free? Is it paid?
It's a free service. It's one of those things that we're here embedded in the community. You've actually got so many people that work for LLS that are already farmers in their own right or closely tied to agriculture. So they're already passionate, part of the community, want to actually help in those scenarios.
It's pretty incredible. I know that for my mum, when she picked up the phone and called a vet about livestock nutrition, she was speaking to someone who grew up on a farm and someone who grew up with my brother. So not only was she ringing someone that was trusted and known and local, she was ringing an expert who was a vet. And I think when we run into issues in drought and we don't know who to call, knowing that there's an expert service available. But what happens if I ring you because I have a problem and you don't know the answer?
One of the things that I always want to hear from any of our staff is, I don't know, but I'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So we spend a lot of time chasing up answers to questions that we might not know the answers to. Someone will ring me and ask about what's the best type of native vegetation to plant in their riparian area. I'll go, that's not one that I actually know the answer to, but I know Pippa and I know that Pippa knows that answer. So I spend a lot of time actually chatting internally to people to say, how can I help this person? What information do we have collectively across the organisation that will help people?
It's like a no wrong door approach to getting an answer.
Exactly, yeah. I don't ever want to see someone ring up and go, oh no, I didn't get an answer. What they actually would get is they'd get someone who would be empathetic, they understand what happens in the farm, and they'll find a solution.
So it's like having Google search, but they actually work for you, you don't have to go searching. You put in your question, the officer goes away and gets the answer and comes back to you.
Everyone's time poor. We help provide that time.
Amazing.
By searching that.
You've mentioned Pippa. She's one of the LLS officers, and we've had the opportunity to travel out to a farm at Maules Creek, which is just here near Narrabri. And we've met with a farmer called Ron Ison, who's been using the local land services to do a number of programs and benchmarking in collaboration with other farmers. We're going to have a look at that case study, and then we're going to chat about what they're doing differently with the LLS.
This farm has been farmed monoculture wheat for over 100 years. We started here probably 2001. We did a progress course that showed us how to measure pastures and had a lot of cattle performance.
I'm Pippa Jones. I work with Local Land Services in the northwest part of New South Wales. I work in the Natural Resource Management team, so that's working with farmers and landholders across our region to improve natural assets on farm.
We've got a project going now, a Check Ready Grow program. The paddock had a big wash when the drought broke and a big gully got washed down, the fence got washed away. My idea now is that I want to get the water on the place. But over the years with the farming, the banks broke and the soil conservation now run the water into one point and run it off the place. So with this project that I'm doing now, I want to keep the water on the place.
Farmers are often calling to find out things around how they can better manage ground cover or weeds in their pastures or in their vegetation. So we provide advice or network for people to find out more information so that they can manage that problem. We have everyone from vets to sustainable agriculture and beef officers to natural resource management and biosecurity.
We do a lot of work with the beef cattle officer in Narrabri on nutrition, animal nutrition. Agriculture is evolving all the time. You just can't keep doing the same thing over and over again as grandfather did and dad did. You've just got to keep moving forward. If we can get groups doing some of the projects that LLS would like us to do, it's just definitely going to improve agriculture and improve production and improve your bottom line.
In 2021, we became aware of this group of motivated and proactive farmers in the Maules Creek area. We were looking at ways that we could support farmers who are already doing great stuff and just help them make a difference on their properties and in their community. We organised some field days and have provided support to improve their ground cover, improve their soil health, improve the way they manage their business as well through the Check Ready Grow program, and hopefully build their confidence in their network so that they can keep going and improve their landscape.
After we did our progress course, we did a benchmarking course, which I thought was brilliant, and I would like to get some benchmarking groups going again, because we used to put all our figures up And we could see why some people were doing better than others. And because we were a proactive group, we all changed things. Because the figures were there, we could see what was working and what wasn't.
We're local, we work locally, we know the landscapes we work in, we know the farmers. A lot of us are farmers ourselves, we get it, and I feel like we are a really important resource, and if farmers aren't sure, just ring and we'll help you out.
Communication is probably the thing that farmers don't do well. You should communicate with your bank manager and your livestock agent and the LLS. Just when you come to a point and you say, what should I do now? Say the main thing is to do something. And the first thing I would do is get a whole property plan so that you know where you're going, and then just start working on it. Do it and do it well. Pick up the phone and ring the LLS and say, can I talk to the vet, or can I talk to the beef cattle officer and talk to someone in there? They've got all the literature and they're working with people all the time. It's the thing that you really have to do.
We get support from a whole lot of different regions, and we can use those skills and that knowledge and bring it back to our region. For me, in my job, it's about helping farmers recognise and look after the natural assets they've got on farm. I think a lot of the time they do it subconsciously, but really making them value and making the wider community value the role that those assets play in the functioning of not only a farm but also the landscape is really important.
It was wonderful to hear from Ron. He's a real role model in the agricultural community. He's diving into these programs, and he spoke about ProGraze and he spoke about Check, Ready, Grow. So if someone's listening online and saying, what are they and how can I find out more?
ProGraze is a great one, but before I get to ProGraze, Ron is an absolute legend. I have worked with Ron for a lot of years, so yeah. I'd probably learn as much from Ron as but, in terms of ProGraze, it's a course that we offer across the state. Wouldn't have mattered if you drove from Gunnedah through to Walgett, or even going out from up this way. You don't see the boundary between central tablelands and northwest. You see just the landscape is pretty similar. But ProGraze is one of those courses that we offer regardless of what region you're in. It's just that fundamental grazing management and pasture training that we offer. So that's one we offer across the state.
Is it like online, or do you go in?
No, so this is the beauty of it. It is face-to-face. So it's small groups. And like we said, everyone likes looking over their neighbour's fence. Yeah. Imagine being able to spend, over the course of 6 months, go to 8 farmers' places and look in their paddocks, be invited into their farms and talk about their production system. So it's a really intimate, good learning experience for people. So
how do you get on a ProGraze group? Because I can imagine someone's at home right now saying, well, I've never been invited into ProGraze, or is it reach in, reach out? How does it work?
We do reach out. We'll put out expressions of interest, but we encourage people to give us a call. Like, we've got a 1300 number, 1300 795 299. I tattooed that on earlier. So, reach out, come into your local office. We've got over 80 offices across the state where people can come in and meet a human and actually have those conversations, ask for support.
Imagine meeting someone like Pippa with such incredible experience. Is it common to meet someone like Pippa in the LLS?
It is. I mean, so many of us are either directly involved in farming now on our own farms, or have a long history of being involved in agriculture. So you'll find lots of people like Pippa across the state. So
highly qualified, educated, passionate, empathetic, and willing to go away and do some research and come back with the answers. So there was a second course mentioned, Check, Ready, Grow.
Yeah, so Check, Ready, Grow was a program that Pippa and I worked on together a few years ago that we're running out across the state. And it's a facilitated self-assessment. So if I said to you, what's the strengths of your business? Where are the weaknesses in your business? Where are the areas you'd like to improve? And we're not going to tell you what the score is. We want you to be able to say, actually, I feel like I could do better in these areas. We just support that. We create that space for people to do that without any fear of judgment, so that they can assess where there's areas they'd like to grow their business. And Check, Ready, Grow allows them to do that. We support them after that process.
Is that like one-on-one mentoring?
So it's not directly one-on-one mentoring. We'll start it in a small group scenario, but then we'll go back with those people and say, okay, what did you learn out of that? What would you like to know more about? For me, I'd love to know more about agricultural technology, the advent of drones or swarm farms. So I'd be asking those questions, and then there'd be someone in LS that would support me in finding out more about that.
On that journey of
Correct.
understanding. Now, we were with the Rural Financial Counselling Service in Moree yesterday, and the counsellor there, Bob, was able to show us some work he was doing for a farmer. And he was able to put together a spreadsheet, and being in banking for 18 years, he was able to do it very quickly. He put together a spreadsheet that was able to show a farmer the 10-year history of their finances, a 1-year forward budget and a 2-year forward estimate. And it was interesting because that farmer wouldn't have been able to do that level of Excel budgeting themselves. And not most business owners have to outsource a lot of this sort of business planning, forecasting. Is that how you see the LLS? LLS is a business service to help farmers do more.
Yeah, look, I see that, as I said before, farmers are busy, and they get busy in doing the do. They probably wouldn't have spent the time developing a spreadsheet to work that stuff out. They might not have researched what were the best feeds that they could use with their livestock. So if they were looking for nutritional advice, they'd be scratching their head going, I could Google it, but maybe there's someone that could expedite that because I might not trust everything I see on Google. I want human-based support. And that's what we offer, is we're able to go, okay, there's some technical topics you want to know more about. We can really delve into those and support you on that journey that's individual for you.
So rather than farmers, they can spend time doing what they're good at, being farmers, doing the doing, but the LLS can provide this level of information, engagement and inputs into the business. You go out and buy fertiliser, go out and get support in terms of information, research and resources.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned before, I'm involved in agriculture, and only this morning with our own family farm, we actually engaged our accountant and our solicitor to do some farm succession. So we actually went out and spoke to professionals rather than just bumble our way through it and try and work it out ourselves. We went out and sought some help from some professionals.
In the last 2 webinars, as part of the Department of Primary Industries series, we have spoken with succession planning experts, Isabel Knight from Proactive and Lynn Sykes. Yes, 2 experts. And one of the key takeaways was quite often in the succession planning process, having an independent facilitator who comes in and allows each person just to be themselves at the table and allow someone else to do the heavy lifting to facilitate the conversation, rather than having an accountant or a lawyer who may have an invested interest, someone totally independent of the family and not receiving any future benefit has been advantageous. Have you found that as well?
Yes, I have. Thoroughly recommend both Lynn and Isabel. I've seen both of them present, and I know people that have worked with them in the past got some fantastic results.
So great things you can do to prevent problems, and not only can you prevent problems in succession planning by bringing in an independent expert. I was just thinking back to Ron's video where he talks about they had a large rain event and it washed away the fences, and he said you can't just keep doing the same thing your grandfather did. And how many times do we see the same fence wash away across the same gully on the same farm, and they come back and they fix it and they tie some logs to the bottom of the farming fence? I might not, or might be talking about my dad. Therefore, what else are you seeing smart farmers doing? We saw Ron say, I'm going to keep more water on my farm by putting in preventative measures. What else are you seeing smart farmers doing?
So we're seeing a lot of smart farmers, like you said with Ron, keeping water on their farm. That's just slowing that movement of water. So improving ground cover, actually managing their pastures so that they're healthy and productive as long as they possibly can. Even in a cropping scenario, we're seeing so many people have moved to zero-till. It's been such a massive benefit for Australian agriculture to go to zero-till. And that's for the soil health benefits. It's actually keeping that moisture there where it can be used productively, and you're not seeing country degrade.
One of the case studies we looked at in the last few weeks was using new and innovative programs from the LLS. We headed out to Cassilis, to Dale Keith, and met with Damien Soster, And Damien was able to talk us through the projects he'd been undertaking with the LLS. We'll have a look and we'll come back and have a chat.
We are here located at Dalkeith, which is the Upper Hunter, just out of Casslis. Dalkeith's 12,000 acres, running primarily beef cattle. The LLS really approached me at different times and said, were we interested in doing regen projects, particularly with our grassy woodlands sort of projects and along the creek. And we've done a couple of different projects now. It's been a great opportunity for us. Kickstart some of those projects we want to do, and regenning the creeks, particularly one of those for us. I think the long-term goal is to link the likes of the Turrell State Forest with the cooler tops and to get those wildlife corridors and what have you coming right through our 4 Mile Creek. Catherine Conroy, she got onto us and got the project started where they were able to sort of give us the trees and give us the funding to fence the areas off and get the whole thing underway. It's an ongoing project, but it's certainly a good start. We're going holistic with our livestock, and the regen path is in fencing and getting sort of that diversity in our creeks is just so crucial, I think, to the overall well-being of the ecology of farming and being a farmer. We've got to get that balance right for everything to be profitable, I believe. Well, one in particular that the LLS put on for us was germination of native seeds, collecting native seeds, which is our passion, obviously trying to get more native trees and shrubs in along the creeks, which is natural to the area. But having the workshop based on particularly germination, collecting germination, plant survival, so I mean that was crucial to where we are today and what we're trying to achieve. Catherine contacted me and asked me if I was interested in the drone technology in setting seed in clay pellets and dropping them out from the air. So we've designated sort of 20 odd hectares along the creek that they're going to trial this in. We've committed to not grazing that and letting them go ahead and start this trial. And look, I'm really excited just to see what it does and the germination rates. I think for all of us it's a great prospect going just to be able to try and get that native vegetation back in areas that are inaccessible or hard to get to. I think the more that we can obviously take advantage of these workshops, whether it's animal nutrition, plant production, regen matters. It's just a matter of getting in there, finding the time and getting there and taking the opportunity. Our business is going holistic. We're trying to get simpler. The ebbs and flows of COVID and what have you, and trying to get supplies is getting harder and harder. Labour's got harder, costs are high, and it just lends itself to me to have a model which is a holistic approach where we are trying to simplify and LLS through the tree planting programs or the animal nutrition and just doing things better. Get it right the first time. Whether it's animal nutrition, don't wait till it's too late. Don't wait till it's got too dry. The workshops are there to educate us all on sort of making better decisions, and those early decisions are better holistic approaches to make rather than sort of call the shots too late. And that's where I draw on the LLS and read the articles. I mean, I think it's crucial to get the education through the LLS, and then it just puts you that one step ahead when you need the resources.
So in that video, we saw Damien had an engagement with the LLS, and all of a sudden they're talking about bringing out drones and planting seeds in creek beds. It's a really cool, innovative program. There's probably someone sitting at home saying, God, why didn't LLS reach out to me? Is this, again, to reinforce how do farmers, do they get selected for these programs, or do they have to put their hand up?
I think all farmers should probably put their hand up for any opportunity that they get. We try and work with as many farmers as possible, but we only know that those people are interested when we have that conversation with them. So we don't knock on everybody's door every day of the week, but if you can pick up the phone and ring us, we know you're interested. We know we can work with you, and we'll do our best to support you.
I've got a heap of questions coming in here on my iPad, so we're going to get to those shortly. And if anyone has any more questions they'd like to ask, please do put them in the chat box. What are some of the new programs that you offer that people may not be aware of?
So one of the ones that we're offering at the moment is we're working with the drought innovation hubs across New South Wales to put on some drought adoption officers. So that's people that are dedicated to helping people prepare for any coming drought. And we know that across the state it's getting drier in patches. So we're looking to try and have people in place to actually work through, similar to a check ready grow, where people can go through and go, how did I handle the last drought? Did I handle it as well as I possibly could? or are there areas for improvement? And we'd like to work with as many farmers as we can to make sure that they're prepared so that any coming drought isn't as bad as the last drought that they went through.
So how many areas are you seeing are in drought at the moment, and how does a farmer find out if their area is entering into or currently in drought?
So the beauty of how diverse our organisation is and the people that we work with is we work closely with New South Wales DPI, and they have the combined drought indicator map. And you'll be able to see that. You better look that up on the web and see where your area is and whether it's coming into or out of drought. Now, for the last 2-3 years, we've been looking really, really good. It's been as green as it could be. But around Narrabri at the moment, we're starting to see areas that are drying off. And so you'll be able to find that for your farm or your area and go, okay, yeah, things are starting to look dry. People will see that themselves, but that's confirmation that they are starting to go through a dry period.
We might drop a link to that drought map into the chat so people can see that and check for themselves. When we were in the last drought, 2019, 2020, interest rates were falling. And now we're here in 2023, interest rates are rising, it's drying off. What are the big issues that farmers are coming to you with right now?
So we are seeing people at the moment with slightly relaxed or depressed prices for livestock at the moment. So cattle prices have come off a little bit. So people have maintained stock. They've rebuilt their numbers and they're starting to struggle with, okay, things are getting dry, but they might need to sell them, but the price has slipped off. So we're having a lot of conversations about nutritional advice, about the best stock to sell, how you can efficiently put weight on them as quickly as possible. But that's one of the topics that we're dealing with for drought. The other ones that we're seeing is there's a massive talk at the moment about ag tech. There's also a big area of environmental markets. Lots of people talking about carbon markets and the opportunity to make millions off your farm with carbon. Probably we're looking into that space and trying to work out, potentially myth busting a lot of those things to say, hey, there's some great productivity benefits about raising carbon on your farm, but the carbon market might not be the silver bullet.
I'm certainly hearing a lot of people ask about carbon farming and opportunities to essentially close off land to enable those credits or a diversified income. But I don't know that anyone has a single source of truth on how to go about it. Is that a journey they can start with the LLS?
They can certainly start that with local land services. We're looking to try and work that out as well, so that when people are confused or they're looking for information, we're there to support them in that space.
Often when there's a new thing, I won't say a fad because it's not a fad, but when there are new things, a lot of consultants enter the market and charge people a lot. One of the questions that came in is LLS a free service, or is there a limit on how much free service you can access?
It's a really good question because it is somewhat limited. We are a free service, but one of the things that I probably didn't mention before when talking about who we work really closely with a lot of advisors across New South Wales. I use a cropping example that in Gunnedah we've got one of our staff, highly skilled, great practitioner for cropping, but there's also probably 150 private advisors between here and the Queensland border. So someone like our cropping officer will work closely with those people to make sure that they have the best advice as well. So it's not all about us being that one-on-one service with farmers all the time, but it's actually about building the capacity of the entire industry.
Incredible. So you, as an organisation, provide best practice information, best practice research to the 150 private advisors who are then probably working with, if each of the 150 advisors work with 100 farmers each, you are sending your information further and wider than ever before. I would imagine a lot of people don't know that you are tapping into that network and doing such extensive work. Absolutely. So I've got another question that's come in here. Do you prioritise projects or types of work more highly than others?
Yeah, so everyone is limited for their time, farmers, LLS included. So there are some projects that we will focus on and others that there might not just be enough hours in the day to get through all of that. So we do prioritise those that have a really good public benefit. So if we're looking for a riparian project, for example, something that's going to give long-term water quality benefits for the entire community is something that we'll prioritise.
And rightly so. I've got another question. I've watched all the webinars so far, so that's succession planning, family communication, and now LLS. Dale is my LLS officer. Are you my primary point of contact to support with succession, diseases, business planning, etc.?
So we're certainly that point of contact. Anyone who knows me has my mobile number, so they know they can contact me, phone or text, and I will try and connect them with the right person. So there are some areas in terms of the farm succession that I will point them to other programs, like the Farm Business Resilience Program within New South Wales DPI, and we'll encourage people to use those programs that are out there. I'd like to think I'm relatively intelligent, but not brainy enough to know every answer to every question.
And it sort of reminds me of the highly successful Service New South Wales. You ring and you get to the right person once you explain the problem. So I've got another question here. We're regenerative farmers in the Northern Tablelands. Does the LLS run programs specific to regen ag? Is there a group of other producers out there we can connect with? And obviously, if so, how?
Great question, because there is actually a person that's based out of Bingara that actually does regen ag work. They're connected with the Northern New South Wales, Southern Queensland Drought Hub. So they're actually some staff from Southern Cross University. So you can see the reach that we get across the state. So there is a person there that actually works with those groups and supports groups in their regen ag adventure.
Incredible. And just to show the overlap, you've got Southern Cross University working with LLS, working with the Drought Hub. It's good to see all of this working together. This is great. We've got a heap of questions here. Do local land service work with other state departments? We've really been there. And how much of that work is on new information, new developments and new opportunities?
We work really closely with New South Wales DPI. New South Wales DPI have done so much for the agricultural industry, and they're that premier research organisation. So we work quite closely with them to see that latest research and development and bring that to producers. We also do that with universities, and Ron Ison, who we spoke about before, Ron certainly helped us with doing some validation of a pasture productivity database that's coming out of University of Sydney. So we're trying to connect people across that whole range.
How fantastic. What about other states like Queensland or Western Australia? There have to be conditions that are similar in Queensland to areas in New South Wales. Do you work?
There are. Look, we're close to state of origin, so we won't start the regional debate over who's going to win. But look, the border is a line on a map. The farming systems cross the border so much. So yeah, we do work quite closely with Queensland. We've got examples of some of our pasture forecasts that we actually work quite closely with Western Australia and Tasmania as well, with our farming forecaster platform.
Well, up here we also reach into the future drought hub that's based in Queensland, rather than one based in New South Wales. Here's another question. How can I join a benchmarking group?
So I would suggest give your local land services a call. So the numbers, we can put the number in the chat. But yeah, talk to local land services. We'll connect you with those people who are running those benchmarking groups. But a key thing about that, something that Ron mentioned, is that Ron was seeking help. Ron actually wanted help, and he joined a benchmarking group, and I think it's great that people want to, and we want to facilitate that. We might not run it forever, but we want to encourage people to actually go out and find that help and work with their neighbours or people that they've got a common interest.
And another question, I noticed that when I work with sort of 20-year-olds, when I try to call them, they don't answer the phone, but when I text them, they text straight back. So what's the best way to stay across what's happening through the LLS? So a young person may not want to call and ask what's happening. How can they just stay plugged in?
Well, we won't go out to TikTok with it at this point, but you'll find us on a lot of the social media platforms, Instagram, and
Twitter?
Facebook as well, Twitter as well. We have a regional newsletter. Like so every region across local land services sends out a newsletter, and it would be close to monthly. So you can ring up your local office, ask to be put on that mailing list. So all the information that we put out goes out through those newsletters. You'll find us on all the social media platforms as well and on our website.
That sounds like a very time efficient way to be able to scan what's coming up, what you can make it to and what you can't make it to. You've mentioned working with consultants to provide information. Do farm advisors come through the same channels as farmers for more information?
Yes, yep. Come in the same way. So the cropping officer that I mentioned in Gunnedah has worked quite closely with a group of consultants on the Liverpool Plains to de-risk agriculture going into the future. Lots of people want to know, so people might see 40 crop cycles over their lifetime. We actually want to model 100 of those scenarios and actually say, if you change with this rotation to that rotation, you might get a less risky result. So we actually worked with a couple of consultants to develop that and share that out with the industry across the Liverpool Plains.
It's incredible work. I'm actually learning a lot just sitting with you, and I've been researching and learning about the LLS for 3-4 months already. This has been wonderful. I've got 3 more questions, unless any more come in the chat. For project selection, is it first come, first serve for funding for new programs, or how do you assess funding?
So we assess them on a merit process. So what level of impact are they going to have? What's the value of that investment? And really, what's that community benefit? What's that public benefit that something like that provides? If it's all for the benefit of just the farmer, but doesn't consider the benefit of the surrounding landscape, it probably won't rank as highly as those that actually give a really broad community benefit.
I had the pleasure of meeting a lot of your LLS officers and noticed they were all from agricultural backgrounds, very empathetic and passionate about the work they do. One of the questions that came in is, I'm interested in getting work off farm. What careers would be available to me through the LLS?
There are close to 1,000 roles within local land services, and the vast majority of those are in the regional part of New South Wales. So there's lots of opportunities to work with us. Like I said, I started working as a mixed farming officer and worked through working directly with landholders, and then I got the opportunity to look after a team of staff within the region, and I've just recently had an opportunity to work across New South Wales. But there's great opportunities to work in the biosecurity space, in the veterinary space, in sustainable ag, natural resource management, even farm forestry. There's so many opportunities to work with us.
And part-time, full-time, family flexible?
Very flexible organisation. I think one of the great things that COVID did for us is gave everyone the opportunity of how they can work remotely or agile. So there's great opportunities there. And for people that want to come into our organisation, we've recently run a graduate program. We've got 10 graduates straight out of uni to actually grow that skill set across the organisation and grow it for the industry.
So the grads are like a network together.
Yeah.
The 10 of them know each other,
Yes.
even though they're right across New South Wales.
Yep.
And how long does the grad program go for?
So the grad program rolls through to the end of this year.
So they do a 12-month grad program and then you let them loose.
Yes, and then we let them loose, but have a great time.
How fantastic. So how does farm size vary when you are looking after customers? Is there a difference in the way you look after customers, large landholders, hobby farmers, in-betweeners?
So the average area for farms in the northwest is about 700 hectares. So
okay, so quite large.
That's a reasonable size farm across the area, but we work across that range. We actually have a specific small farms program,
yes,
and that's for those farms up to 100 hectares where people, it might not be their primary source of income, they might work off farm, but they're really interested and engaged in how they can better care for that piece of land. So we have that small farms program, and we just recently ran a launch at the Long Yard in Tamworth, and that was fantastic to see so many people come along, learn how they could better manage their land in a time when they're obviously busy, they're working on farm as well.
Yes, they've got a small block of land which can be a problem for noxious weeds that they're not aware of because perhaps they're an accountant in town and they've got their couple of 100 acres on the edge and they head out every day and the purple flowers look beautiful, but it's Patterson's curse.
Could be an issue. So we try and work with them on that, and it's a joint education process with them, so everyone learns out of that.
Fantastic. Okay, I've got one last question. Do LLS run targeted regional-based events or are they all online? How do you balance the new world?
there is a lot of online events like today.
Yes.
It's a fantastic opportunity, but we do run a lot of face-to-face events. So you mentioned Pippa and Ron Ison, where they ran the Maules Creek Region Ag Group. So we actually try and run those on the ground with people all the time, because we recognise that, like I said in the beginning, looking over the fence and getting to look over lots of other people's fences is a great way of people educating themselves and growing their own business to be more resilient.
It's a much more practical way to absorb information in person, standing on someone's farm. Dale, I'm so grateful for your time. What advice would you have for someone watching who is sitting at home thinking, I really want to get involved in some group? And I already know the answer to this.
Yeah, you know the answer. You know that just pick up the phone, give us a call, get engaged with us. We will support you as much as we possibly can. There's so many ways that you can seek help to grow your own business and educate yourself, work out ways that you can avoid some of the challenges that you faced in the past. No one wants to keep butting their head up against a brick wall, as nice as they are. If there's an opportunity to learn.
We can't keep doing what our grandfather did. There was a great story that I heard one of your LLS officers tell, that they had a farmer with a serious problem during the drought with the condition of the sheep, and it hit the media. And the solution was your LLS officer took that one farmer and helped that farmer gather the support of the neighbours to come together in an education group. And it was taking that one farmer to almost lead the process that helped that farmer get out of their way to care for sheep. So probably the follow-on part from the advice of not only to get involved is to bring your neighbours on the journey.
I mean, we can provide a lot of information and provide the space for that, but farmers do learn from farmers. So where they can bring along their neighbours or be involved, that certainly benefits the broader industry.
One of the great reasons why so many LL officers come from farming backgrounds, and why there's such great people for our farmers to work with and learn from.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for your time, Dale.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap up this webinar by thanking everyone online for joining. This webinar will be available for you to view, and we'll provide the link to not only webinar 1 on succession planning, webinar 2 on family communication, and webinar 3 on the local land services for you to share with your friends, your farmers, your neighbours. And we look forward to seeing you online again in August and September, where we continue the Department of Primary Industries Smart Farm Business webinar series. We'll be playing case studies about the Rural Financial Counselling Service and the opportunities they offer. We'll also be diving into ag tech and other really critical topics that help farmers be more productive and be great business owners. Thanks so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you at the next webinars.